Welcome to Witch Hunt. I'm Josh Hutchinson.
I'm Sarah Jack. Today we welcome Dr. Samantha Spence and meet PhD candidate Arjun Philip George and Dr. Giresh Kumar J.
They will elaborate on socio-legal issues in India to help us explore the complex intersections of religion, politics, and witchcraft accusations in Indian society and beyond, shedding light on how these dynamics influence harmful practices across the globe.
Arjun Philip George recently completed his PhD research on violence against women on social media. Samantha Spence, an associate professor of international human rights and social justice, and Dr. Giresh Kumar J., an expert on the rights of marginalized groups, add diverse perspectives.
They discuss how political leaders use religion for political gains and the pushback against progressive legal decisions, highlighting the importance of education and societal norms, challenging the status quo, and promoting democratic values that can ensure all people have a voice and are treated equally.
You might find that the intersections of religion, politics, and harmful practices are not limited to one region or society, but resonate globally. Let's explore these themes further in today's episode. Hello. Could you please introduce yourself and tell us about your professional background and your area of expertise?
Hello, thank you for giving me an opportunity to speak in your podcast. My name is Arjun Philip George. I'm from India, basically from Kerala, the southern part of India. Currently working in Chennai, which is also the southern part of India, but it's a different district. I've done my UG from Christ University, Bangalore, which is BA LLB honors. After that, I did my LLM from Central University of Kerala, which is a central government institution. I also did my PhD over there. I recently submitted my PhD to Central University of Kerala in the month of May. And my work was on violence against women on social media platforms, a socio-legal analysis. Now, I did an empirical study too, right? The reason for me to choose this particular area was that when I studied law, I did understand that there were certain sections of the society who were marginalized, right? Due to several reasons, various reasons. Now, women were one of them, right? I thought that I would work on this particular topic, especially on the cyber violence against women in social media platforms. I've seen several instances. I've seen many of my friends refusing to put their own pictures as the display pictures in WhatsApp or Facebook. They often used to put a butterfly or a flower as their pictures. I was a little curious at first to understand the reason for the same. And they were really worried about violation of their privacy and misuse of their photographs or misuse of the posts which they put in these platforms. Yeah.
Welcome. Could you introduce yourselves and tell us about your professional background and area of expertise?
I am Sam Spence. I am now an associate professor of international human rights and social justice. Everybody knows who I am because I've done this podcast many times, so I'll not repeat myself.
Giresh, would you like to tell us about your professional background and your expertise?
Myself, Dr. Giresh Kumar. I'm currently studying the Department of Law, Central University of Kerala, which is one among the 40 plus central universities and funded institution, which is run by the central government. Only one university of that kind in Kerala. And my area of interest was human rights of the marginalized, disabled, disadvantaged, tribals, that kind of underprivileged sections. I have my PhD also on disability rights. And I do believe in the importance of promoting scientific temper among people. And I'm very much disappointed with the reality that in spite of having a constitution which is highly secular and liberal in India, which is able to generate the scientific temper in its own, the society in India has to learn a lot about how to maintain, how to protect, how to maintain, how to promote, and how to be led by scientific temper. So I'm very much concerned about it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can you tell us about the intersection of religion and gender and harmful religious practices?
Yes. So I do realize that your podcast is on witchcraft, right? So in India, we don't see an exact same topic. So that's why I thought about talking about harmful religious practices and intersection of religion and gender, right? During my research, when I was reading various scholars, I found an interesting line as to how society use social institutions as a tool to suppress or subordinate women, to use women for their own benefit, not just women, but also those belonging to LGBTQ community. Even at this point of time, what you should realize is that in India, those people who are belonging to the LGBTQ community and though the women as a section are fighting for their rights. It was in 2018 that a very unconstitutional and an inhuman provision was decriminalized in this country. It was called Section 377 of Indian Penal Code, which was drafted in the year 1860 by the Britishers when they were ruling India. Now, this provision criminalized even consensual homosexual relation between consenting adults. Now, from my understanding, what I understand is that according to the Abrahamic religions, like that of Islam, Christianity, or Judaism, they consider homosexuality as a sin. And it is from this understanding which was prevailing during that period of time, and wherein Britain was a Christian country, which recognized itself to a Christian country then, and even now they recognize themselves to be a Christian country. And it was out of this morality they framed such a provision. And took such a long time for a country like India, which had uh, a democratic constitution right from the year 1950. It took such a long time for India to decriminalize such an offense, which was inhuman and which was unconstitutional, which was against the constitution, the fundamental rights which were guaranteed under the constitution. And one another provision which I want to bring to your notice is there was a provision with regard to adultery in Indian Penal Code. Now, adultery was considered to be a criminal offense. I don't have any issue in considering adultery to be an offense, because in matrimony, you do give certain vows to each other. And it's your duty. Once you enter into such a social setup, it's your duty to observe such vows. This is my personal opinion. But making it a criminal offense is an issue, because it is an understanding between two persons. Now, criminal offense is an offense against the society. That's when you punish a person with imprisonment, or you give strict punishments like that of similar punishments, right? Similar criminal law punishments. Now, in a civil offense, you can claim for a divorce. Now, that is sufficient in case of an offense like adultery. But it was a criminal offense in our country. And it again took a long time for India. It was again in the year 2018 that India decriminalized the offense of adultery. And the provision was drafted in such a manner to make my students understand. I often say this and do understand that this is my understanding about the provision which was drafted. And this is not my personal opinion. Women were considered to be a property of their husband. Now, if someone trespasses to my property, I can file a case against the person who trespassed to my property, but I cannot file a case against my property. So similar was the provision. If my wife is having an adulterous relationship with someone, I can file a criminal case against the person who is having adulterous relationship with my wife, but not against my wife. Similarly, if I enter into an adulterous relationship with another woman, that woman's husband can file a case against me, but not against his wife. Similarly, my wife can also not file a case against me, because my property is having no right to file a case against its master. A property cannot file a case against its master. That's the logic. Do you know how inhuman it is, how undemocratic it is? When you're saying that you're living in a constitutional democracy, and when you see that such provisions existed in our country for such a long time, we should be ashamed of ourselves. And when I was a law student, I thought that this provision is very much necessary because I was brought up in a Christian background. I used to go to church. Now, according to those values, the offense looked pretty good to preserve the moral values. But it took me 5 years to understand that such a provision is not good for a democratic society, for a modern society. These are two examples which I want to point out before. So I hope you understand the intersection of religion and gender, how religious values do play a role in prescribing how people should restrict their emotions in a society. Now, homosexuals were reluctant to express themselves as homosexuals because of this provision. A woman who is not satisfied in a marriage was forced to remain in that marriage because of a provision like this. And it took long time for a country like India, where there were a lot of judges who are praised for the human rights jurisprudence which they have authored over the period of time. It took a long time for such a country to decriminalize.
Thank you.
Thank you. And what is the role of caste in perpetuation of harmful practices?
In this kind of superstitious or anti-inhuman laws, what is the role of caste? And see, I hope I can have some reflections on this, that India is a peculiar kind of society. But India not standing alone. There are many societies like that. Even that what was mentioned about Arjun in the laws against the liberty or freedom or privacy of individuals, especially the women, this is not like a product of a westernized kind of lawmaking or something like that. This had been built, the laws had been built on the cultural and religious ethos of the Indian society only. So I always believe that the legal system of a country is a product of its own cultural, societal norms. So those days in 1860, when IPC was crafted, if an unlawful relationship of a wife had not been made an offense, the Britishers would have been fired by the people of the country. That was an issue. So caste, coming to caste, it's a kind of unique element taken for discriminating people in India by the Indian society. It is the choice of Indians only. No Westerners, no invaders, nobody had imposed or supplied the element of caste to the Indian society. Indian society had created it, and it had accepted it, and it had nurtured it, and now it had been paying for that for quite long. Till now, the Indian society is paying for having promoted caste as this much a bigger element in the society. Women, caste is a byproduct of religion. Women, especially in my view, I always talk to my students in that way, that not only in Hinduism or any other particular religion, in almost every religion, women are sidelined, exploited, or discriminated. Women are given secondary or tertiary consideration only. But the paradoxical fact is, these very women are lining up in front of the churches, mosques, temples everywhere, and they are actually the base for promotion of every religion. An institutionalized religion which perpetually discriminate women is protected, promoted, and nurtured by women at large. This is a paradox in India. And this is a paradox in many societies which are run by religious practices which are highly discriminatory to women. So caste religion says that women should be kept like this. For example, we had Manusmriti, which was speaking about women's freedom. The men had to take care of women, and men had to control women, and men had to be holding control against women all over. Not only any particular religion, every religion is of that kind only. And caste is working within religion. Caste is another element of discrimination in which people are stratified into the lowest, then the middle, then the higher, then the highest, then the most elite. That way, people are classified and the share in the public resources, the rights, the privileges, everything is shared on account of the caste system only, which is not a choice of any individual, but which is imposed by society. Nobody is choosing to be like in a particular caste. People are born into a certain caste, and by birth, if somebody is belonging to certain caste, he or she is supposed to be exposed to whatever discriminatory and oppressive practices like perpetuated towards that caste. So this kind of caste system also promoted the inhuman elements of the legal system in this country, because wealth had been accumulated and dominated in the hands of the elite or the topest strata in the caste system. And division of labor also had been determined by the person's position in the caste system. For example, the topest will be the priests. They don't have any kind of manual or hard working to do. And there is a people who are born to rule, belonging to the kingship section. And there are people who are supposed to do trading, commerce. And there are, in the lower strata, there are people who are supposed to whoever above. And the lower strata, when we talk about that kind of stratification, four type of stratification we had in the Indian society, the untouchable people were not at all belonging to any of these four classes. They were further belonging to the lowest. They had no right at all. They are devoid of all rights by birth itself. So this had been protected and promoted by many in this country for centuries together. And once we have, Indians have gradually moved to the democratic process, because Indians were unaware of what was democracy. Indians were under exploitative and colonial kind of rule for centuries together. And before the colonial rule, they were exploited and ruled by the kings and chieftains, whoever. There was nothing like a democratic process happening in this country. So the concept of democracy, concept of liberty, concept of tolerance, concept of privacy, everything was new to the Indian society. And the incorporation of the constitution is having only 75 years of age. And still the Indian society has a long way to walk, or a very long lesson to learn about how to live in a democratic society and how to work a democratic society. So I would be happy if I cite two important books written by Granville Austin. At the inception of the Indian Constitution, he had written a book, Indian Constitution, the Cornerstone of a Nation. And almost many years after the constitutional process of this country, he had written another book, Working of a Democratic Constitution. So democratic, secular, socialistic, egalitarian, libertarian, tolerant, all values are inside the Constitution. But unfortunately, the Constitution is working very hard day in and day out in this country to imbibe and inculcate all these values meaningfully in the Indian society. That's my opinion about that point. So caste is a reality. Caste matters in India.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Arjun, what is the relationship between harmful religious practices and politics?
Yep. So I would like to start from where Giresh sir have stopped. Now, he when he was talking about Manusmriti, he did mention about an ancient text called Manusmriti. And in Manusmriti, there are writings which say that women are always supposed to be in the support of a man, right? In a younger stage, she should be supported by her father or protected by her father. When she mature, right, she should be protected by her husband. Now, when she becomes old, then she should be protected by her son. And never in her life she is free. She is always protected by someone. And protection, in the sense, you can take it in two different sense. Oftentimes, it has been said by Indians that in India, women are treated as goddesses. Now, the issue with goddess in India is that goddess always remain inside a temple. Now, people will determine as to when they have to take out their goddess for a procession or for a festival outside the temple. So, if the goddess have to step outside the temple, she need the permission of the followers of that particular religion. What is written is that woman is supposed to be protected by man throughout all stages of her life. And the same book mentions about caste, as Sir pointed out. Now, caste, as he said, is a reality in the sense that caste is not just existing amongst Hindus in India, caste is existing amongst Christians in India, and caste is existing amongst Muslims in India. Based on the professions that they practice, though Muslims and Christians might not accept with the statement that I'm making, it is a reality in this country. And I've heard from Sir that if you are in northern part of India, they will always ask you for your second name to understand your caste. So basically, your second name will tell as to which caste you belong to. And the relationship between religion and politics lies here. Whatever is personal is political. This is something which I've read somewhere. Now, if I'm saying that Manusmriti, what Manusmriti says about how a woman has to be protected by men. Now, if it is just a religious preaching, if it is just a moral value, then it should not be having any effect on a life of an individual. It should be a moral value which can be taken by an individual or which need not be taken by it. It should be an individual's choice. Because values are something which you should be allowed to instill in yourself, right? My value might differ from your values, right? Our values might differ based on our culture, based on our upbringing, based on our understanding about how life should be. Now, there is no choice. It is not just prescribing certain values. It is asking you to comply by the same, regardless of who you are, how much education you are having, or whether you want to free yourself out from the same. It is controlling all aspects of your life. Now, let's take Islam as an example. Now, there was a long protest in Karnataka. I don't know whether you have heard of that state. It's a state in India. Now, there was a protest with regard to hijab ban. So basically, whether Muslim women should be permitted to wear hijab. Now, there were protests against a hijab, saying that if Muslim women are allowed to wear hijab in educational institutions and other government institutions, then Hindus should also be allowed to wear saffron shawls. That was the contention. Now, Muslim women a lot of Muslim women were in support of hijab. They were against banning hijab. So they feel themselves comfortable inside a cloth which hide their identity. This is my perspective. Now, so this is a value which is instilled by the religion, which force women who are belonging to that particular religion to follow that value, regardless of how educated he or she is, right? Since we are speaking about women and other marginalized section, who she is. Now, again, when you take religion, Christianity, for example, in Christianity, the clergy is having a lot of power. the priest is having a lot of power. We can't see many women who are in that particular position. Though Anglican Church, to my understanding, recently they have started giving ordination to women. But all the other churches, which claims themselves to be apostolic churches, they refuse to give ordination to women in priestly posts. So women who are nuns, they are under the control of a priest or a bishop, right? They can't make individual decisions with regard to their religious institutions in which they are in charge of. They need the permission of the bishop or the priest. So again, women are under the control of some. So in all aspects of life, regardless of the religion which you belong to, women are subjected to certain controls, right? So since I think I was able to make this point, what I want you to understand is that though these are considered to be values instilled by religion, this is actually influencing lives wherein women are having no other choice. Even if a nun have to take a driving license, she have to get a permission from a bishop. Would you believe that? If a nun have to take a driving license, she have to take permission from bishop or from the concerned authority. Now, how democratic it is, whether such a rule is having a human value. Now, what will they tie this to is the value of obedience. Now, if you're saying that obedience is the true value, then you won't question anything. So this is something which is peculiar with all the religions. I hope I was able to give an answer to your question.
Yes, these values that we find in our faiths and in our cultures allow for these harmful practices to continue. And how much time is it going to take for change to happen when legislation is just now starting to open some doors for marginalized people? That's one of the things that is crossing my mind as we're talking. I'm hearing all of these limits. So,
Problem with legislation, Sarah, is it's political. Simple as it depends on society, it depends on politics, and it goes round in this circle. So how long will it take? How long has it took to get this far for women? It's ridiculous. I'm not hopeful. You can try, but it's society. And the problem we have is society going more and more right wing, not just in India, but across the world. You can see that now. You can see that over there. We see it in the UK. And the right wing conservative movement doesn't want women to have opinions or voices. So we're actually regressing in society. I don't know. Is the answer to that question.
If you permit, I would like to bring another example. I hope you have heard of a judgment by Indian Supreme Court in the year 2018 with regard to a shrine called Sabarimala. The judgment was considered to be, so basically in that particular temple, women are not allowed to enter during their menstrual age. Now, the age which is prescribed is 10 to 60 years, if I'm not wrong. If I'm wrong, please correct me, be recent. Now, between 10 to 60 years, women are not allowed to enter that particular temple. So below 10 years, if you're below 10 years, you can enter. If you're above 60 years, you can enter. The concept is that between 10 to 60 years, you are in your menstrual age. So you're considered to be impure. So the pratishta or the deity in that particular temple is considered to be a brahmachari. Brahmachari means a person who is celibate. So judgment was considered to be very progressive. Judgment stressed on the fact that Indian constitution grants you the right to enter it. If you are being refused of this particular right, then your fundamental right has been violated. So you can enter a place. You cannot say that women who are in their menstruation are impure. That is illogical and unscientific. So women should be permitted to enter them. But interestingly, there were a lot of riots in Kerala, which were initiated by women. Kerala is considered to be one of the most literate states in India. Women came out in streets. They protested against this particular judgment. which forced the Supreme Court to consider it for a review, wherein a judge who was part of the majority, who wrote the majority opinion in 2018, changed his opinion also. He changed his opinion. And interestingly, it was a 5-judge bench. 4 judges were men and 1 judge was woman. All 4 judges said that women have right to enter the temple. But the only single woman judge, she said that woman doesn't have right to enter the temple because it is a religious practice, and that is also protected under the fundamental. So if there is a conflict between equality and right to religion, which should prevail is a question. And according to my understanding, equality is the basic right on which all other rights emerge out from. And if there is a violation of equality, then basically you are discriminating individuals. So point is that women in the state of Kerala was not ready to accept the same. The government during that time, it was a left government. The government supported the judgment in the beginning, because of which they lost in the parliamentary election. The subsequent parliamentary elections which happened in Kerala, they were only able to win 1 seat. Right. This was the kind of sentiments that the society was having. So the Supreme Court was ready to stress on the right of women, or to reaffirm the right of women. But women were not ready to accept that they were having that particular right.
Yeah.
And 2 women entered the temple following this particular order, and government offered them protection. But after that, they faced severe cyber harassments and physical harassments in public. So I don't think laws will be a proper remedy. I think Giresh can add on to the same.
And I am also reminded about the judgment Arjun was citing about Sabarimala entry of women. There was the sole dissenting judge who was a woman, had made a very important statement that judging religious practices with the standard of reason cannot be proper. So there lies the question between democracy and religion, fair practices and religion, equality and religion. The million-dollar question is whether all these will go along. Can democracy work with religion? Can any religion be democratized? Because religion itself doesn't have any idea about the word democracy. And religion never promote the concept of equality. This is not the fault of religion, because religions are made in that mold only. Religions were unequal right from their inceptions, their discoveries or their inventions or their making. So inequality, discrimination, exploitation, ignoring or sidelining certain sections within them, these all are most unique characteristics of every religion. Now, religion is trying to fight with the modern society because the origin of religion had been the product of unanswered questions of humans. Why this happened? Who made this universe? How did this universe originate? Who made this? Who made that? These kind of many questions were unanswered in the beginning of human civilizations. Those days, somebody who wanted to answer these questions had resorted to religion and entities like God to stop the questioning. But gradually, when societies got progressed with the advent of science, technology, and even the growth of scientific temper, education, many those unanswered questions were answered by humans themselves. Now, then, gradually, the necessity of religion to answer certain questions had been in peril. So, the existence the survival of religion had been shaken. But by the time religions have got heavily institutionalized, became institutions like corporate business establishments all over the world, having amazed immense wealth, so running many institutions, controlling and influencing the regimes, the global powers. So religion could not go back and lose all these. So religion also had to fight for its existence. So it attempted to make its wings very much strong. So it is now struggling hard to hold people so close to it by putting new and new dictates, especially in family and community setups, when it comes to marriage, when it comes to death, when it comes to the funeral and related rituals. If the religious people or clergy were offended, one cannot be part of a normal community setup. So, by generating this type of a threat, that if you move against religion, if you speak against religion, if you speak against even caste system when it comes to India, you are going to be a sinner and you are going to be punished very much strictly, either in this world or the other world. Because of the strength of power of legal system, they are not punished in this world, but they are threatened always about the punishment they are going to get in the other world. So now I strongly believe that religion is struggling for its survival. And I have heard that in many countries which are very much higher in happiness index are moving gradually away from religion, because people don't need religion for preserving their value system. And for an ideal and mature society, it should not be like that religion or religious practices or preaching should be there to protect the moral value system of the society. For an ideal society, the value system should be free from any kind of dicta, be it religion or culture or heritage or whatever. It should be the value system of a society should be part of or the product of its civic sense. So many societies are moving towards that direction, and religion, especially the beneficiaries of institutionalized religions, the people at the helm of religious institutions, the clergy we call, who were reaping the benefits of the flourishment of religion so far in the history of human civilizations, are feeling very much threatened, very much afraid and apprehensive. So there's a conflict going on between societies who wanted to be progressed democratically and liberally, and the institutionalized religious mechanisms which wanted the societies not to be progressing ever. It is irrespective of any particular religion. Every religious establishment is engaging in this fight directly or indirectly, deliberately or unknowingly. Thank you.
Arjun, what is the role of political leaders and parties in perpetuating harmful practices?
Yeah. I'd like to start from a story. It's actually a real incident which Sir told in one of our classes. Now, this is about a letter which was written by the first Prime Minister of India to the first President of India. Now, the letter was written by Jawaharlal Nehru, who is the first Prime Minister of India. It was written to Rajendra Prasad. I have kept a copy of that letter near me. I'll just read it out. The context is that Rajendra Prasad was going to participate in the inauguration of a temple after its renovation. And the temple's name was Somnath Temple. So Nehru was of the opinion that Rajendra Prasad, as the leader of the country, shall not participate in that function, because if he participated that function, the people who are belonging to other religions, consider that India is a secular, understand that India is a secular country. It's not a country which is based on a particular religion. So as a president of the country, you're not supposed to participate in the inaugural function of Somnath Temple. His actual words were, I confess that I do not like the idea of your associating yourself with a spectacular opening of Somnath Temple. This is not merely visiting a temple, which can certainly be done by you or anyone else, but rather participating in a significant function, which unfortunately has a number of implications. Personally, I thought that this was no time to lay stress on large scale building operations at Somnath. This could have been done gradually and perhaps more effectively later. However, this has been done. I feel that it would be better if you do not preside over this function. This was the letter which was written by Nehru to Rajendra Prasad. Rajendra Prasad's response was that I personally do not see any objection to associating myself with the function, particularly because I have never ceased visiting temples and denominational or religions or semi-religious institutions. So this was the response. So Nehru is considered to be an atheist, but he was not just an atheist, but he was a very secular person too. He is considered to be one of the most secular leaders of India. Now, Nehru wrote this letter to Rajendra Prasad considering uh, India's diversity, religious diversity, and as to how people will take uh, the fact that take an incident wherein the president is presiding over a temple inauguration. Now, this was a worry which was expressed by Nehru, which Rajendra Prasad was not ready to listen to. But what happened recently in our country was wherein we visited that the Prime Minister inviting religious leaders of a particular religion in the inaugural function of the parliament. Parliament, which is considered to be the temple of democracy, which consists of Hindus, Muslims, Sikhs, and all other religious groups. Even if you are an atheist, you have a place in. Now, in the inaugural function, it was inaugurated in the presence and with the blessings of priests from a particular religion. Now, after that inaugural function, he did invite religious leaders of other religions too. But the point is that whether it is ideal in a democracy, whether such a practice is ideal in a democracy, it always creates a sense of otherness, right? Religious leaders and the participation of political leaders in religion can have very significant impact on the democratic fabric of the country. And you can trace it to the rise of Hindu politics in India. Now, the rise of Hindu politics in India is based on Ram Janmabhoomi. I don't know whether you have heard of it. Ram Janmabhoomi is considered to be the place of birth of Lord Rama, wherein recently they have established a temple, wherein the Prime Minister of the country is going and lying down before the deity, worshipping the deity, wherein the rest of country is observing the same. The temple is constructed at a place wherein a mosque is demolished. When I'm telling this, it is a very controversial statement. Now, what people, including Muslims, what they say is that what has happened? Now, let's construct another mosque few kilometers away. The question is, why few kilometers away? Why was there no rule of law when the temple was destroyed? Why is the leader, even though I might not be a person who might not be supporting the current PM, he is my PM too, right? But he is creating a sense of otherness in me by associating himself with a particular religious group or considering himself to be one of the saviors of that particular religion. right? How is that politics working is that he claims himself to be the savior of that particular religion. So for Hinduism, for the revival of Hinduism, you need to elect a particular leader. That is a state. For preserving our culture, we need to elect a particular leader. Not for progress, not for the welfare, for preserving the culture, for preserving the values of a particular religion, you need to elect a particular leader. So that is not really ideal in a democratic country. And again, I want to make one more statement. Again, it might be controversial. This is my understanding. Gandhi is considered to be the founding father or the father of the nation of India. Now, according to my opinion, Gandhi is the one who instilled the use of religion in politics. He really used it. And when BJP is currently, the ruling party is using it, Gandhi is also, if Gandhi was there, we should be asking a question to Gandhi also. He promoted the use of religion in the fight, in the protest against the Britishers. I think he supported Muslims to fight against Britishers as Muslims. Now, Hindus to fight against the Britishers as Hindus. Right. And then he talked about the values of religion. He instilled that spirit in the mind of each and every Indian. And this was reflected in this even resulted in the partition of the country. Because Jinnah, if I'm wrong, please correct me, sir. Jinnah, Muhammad Ali Jinnah, who is considered to be the father of nation of Pakistan, was an atheist. He used religion because he thought that he is not getting as importance as Nehru is getting in the eyes of Gandhi. So he thought that, let me use religion, like Gandhi is using religion to fight against the Britishers. Let me use religion to gain the power which I deserve. He was a atheist who used to eat pork, if I'm not wrong. According to Muslims, pork is considered to be haram, means, or they are not supposed to have it. Right? It is considered to be a great sin. Now that person became the founder of a nation which is based on a religion. You can see the effects that a use of religion is having in our society. And Ambedkar was having, and when you're using religion in politics, oftentimes you fail to realize the real issues which are being faced by the subaltern section. So there is a famous event in the history of India wherein Ambedkar is in disagreement with Gandhi, and Gandhi going on a hunger strike against Ambedkar with regard to allocating separate electorates for the subaltern sections of the society. So that's my observation with regard to your questions. I think Giresh can add more to it because Sir is the one who gave me all these ideas. Right.
So, historically speaking, Arjun and other dear friends, historically speaking, the word secularism, the word equality, the word socialism, the word democracy, all these are not that much properly appreciated words in the society. The society has to learn a lot as to where should be the line to be drawn in religion and politics. The line may be very thin, but it should be drawn. There should be a line to be drawn between democratic process and religious process. So people always, the societal, due to the societal process which they are familiar, people always mix all these together. And it creates conflict and unrest in the society. Your religion should be your personal affair. And irrespective of your religion, you should be a person who is able to think rationally, reasonably, and democratically in a democratic society. Otherwise, you yourself will be failing the democratic society in which you live. Concern about the Indian society these days is whether the society is able to properly appreciate society in which they are supposed to live, ready to sacrifice democracy or surrender democratic thinking process for many reasons. Example was that Sabarimala judgment. People were ready to sacrifice the thinking and ideals of equality for some beliefs which were deep rooted into society, the creator of which is unknown. So, where to place our constitutional values, where to place our religious beliefs, and where to move and how to move towards a truly democratic society is still, in a sense, it is really in a work in progress in the society, a work which is not even half done. Thank you.
Do you have any closing remarks or final thoughts you'd like to add?
Yeah. So I just want to state that though I was speaking against religion, it took me a long time to speak against the use of religion in politics and in our everyday life. But being brought up from such a background, it's very difficult for me to change the ideas or the values which were instilled in me by religion, though it is undemocratic, though it is against the constitutional values. It is very difficult for me to change. And I do realize that this is the situation with each and every individual in this country. I was mentioning about women who were supporting hijab, women who were protesting against Sabarimala judgment. Now, these are examples wherein they fail to realize that their rights are being violated because of the sense of belonging that religion might be able to offer them. This is my observation because, as sir mentioned, who will take care of me when I'm ill? Who will take care of me if I die? Right? Who will cremate my body? Who will do the ceremonies? If I back out from the church, what will people think about my family? If I don't marry according to the religious customs, will I be outcasted by the community, not in the sense of religion, by the people who were ready to talk with me till yesterday? Will suddenly they be my enemies? Will they suddenly stop talking to me? So, this fear of otherness will make it difficult for us to speak uh, against religion. Even if you are able to speak, oftentimes to practice democratic values in your life, it will be very difficult because religion is political and it is having deep roots in our minds. Thank you.
Sir, do you also have any closing thoughts?
From my side, see, as a youngster, some decades ago, I was thinking that religion can be refined or reformed by moving the unfair practices from it. But gradually, owing to my experience about religion or within or outside the religion, what I have observed is taking out unfair practices only from religion is not an easy task because there is a very good set of moderate and decent practices in every religion, but the indecent and unfair practices are founded within this fair and decent practice. Without the indirect support of the fair set, if at all it is fair, the unfair practices cannot stand. Take the case of superstition. There are very much normal practices in every religious places of worship, which is not at all harmful to anyone. But when it comes to superstition, we should be appreciating the fact that the superstitious practices are the byproducts of the fair practices we start. And when it comes to fundamentalism within religion, many people claim that we are not having any kind of that element. We are moderate religious practitioners. We promote non-violence. We promote a kind of social morality, everything. But this kind of the moderate set of religious belief indirectly or unknowingly is the base for the fundamental or unacceptable practices also. So the most important question is how to remove bad from good, how to remove the unwanted from the wanted, how to remove the unfair from the fair. Whether it can be done just like a surgeon removing a tumor. My understanding and my experience prompt me to answer it is not. There should be a kind of progressive education in this society which is teaching the next generation both the good as well as bad about being religious or non-religious. There should be a level or a stage of the society where one should be able to choose his religion without having the parents or anyone imposing a religion on a child. Whether one should be religious or not should be made the choice of the individual. I hope that because societies have progressed from the past in human practices, we have much moved far to progressive practices. So I hope it will also happen someday that just like your choice of education, your choice of profession, there will be a choice for you about whether you should be religious or not, or what should be your religion and what should not be. Thank you.
Mary Louise Bingham is back with a Minute with Mary.
Mission Barabala was founded by Barabala Rabba, an advocate who rescued almost 100 women accused as Dians, the Indian word for witch, over the last 18 years, often putting her own life in danger. No matter, Barabala did not back down when multitudes of villagers encircled her house after she stood up for 5 women who were accused as Dians. There was another time when villagers beat and threatened her life. Barabala did not even back down when her family said she was a Dian after her husband died of cancer. These are only 3 of many times she fearlessly advocated for women who could not advocate for themselves. In 2021, 3 years prior to her death, Barabala was awarded with a civilian award for work recognized by the Indian government and was buried with state honors at her village, Golpara. According to the state of Assam's Minister of Public Health, Barabala will be remembered for her, and I quote, contributions to scientific and societal principles. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary.
Now, here's Sarah with this week's edition of End Witch Hunts News.
Join us in observing August 10th, World Day Against Witch Hunts. As we approach World Day Against Witch Hunts on August 10th, we invite you to use your social media platforms and email to raise awareness and support this significant day of recognition and awareness. Here's how you can participate. Share the message. Post about the importance of ending modern-day witch hunts. Share stories, facts, and our mission to protect those vulnerable to accusations and persecution. Please read and share the website endwitchhunts.org/day. Use hashtags. Amplify the conversation using hashtags like #endwitchhunts, #violence-against-women, #violence-against-children, #elder abuse, and #World Day Against Witch Hunts. This helps spread the word and connects our global community. Email your network. Write a brief message to friends, family, and colleagues explaining why this day matters and how they can get involved. share our resources, and encourage them to share the message further. We have a sample email letter you can customize. Find it on our Facebook page. Support our efforts. Consider supporting our organization End Witch Hunts through donations or by volunteering your time. Your contribution helps us continue our podcast and advocacy efforts. Please consider making a donation today for our current fundraiser. Your financial support, no matter the size, will help enable me and Josh to attend a human rights conference and speak about our work on a panel about witchcraft victim pardons and exonerations. Join the conversation. Engage with us on social media. Share your thoughts and stand in solidarity with victims of witch hunts. Your online voice matters. Attend our live Facebook event August 10th at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Let's come together on August 10th. At this event, you can learn about modern witch hunts and harmful practices and ask questions. Thank you for your continued support and your advocacy.
Thank you, Sarah,
You're welcome.
for tuning into this episode of Witch Hunt.
Join us every week.
Have a great today and a beautiful tomorrow.